Hi guys, it's me Jess. I wanted to come onto a video and talk about remote working. I had been looking at a couple of articles today. It's Sunday, so I've been pretty laid back. But I was looking at an article put out by Inc.com, and the title is Remote Workers Are Outperforming Office Workers, and Here's Why. And so they basically have 3 different reasons why remote work is more beneficial, and why remote workers typically outperform those that are actually commuting into the office. So I thought it was interesting. I also seen a study on I think the Harvard website, so Harvard Business School. They do a lot of research, particularly into different business topics, and there also on that website was an article that was trending on LinkedIn, and it's titled How Companies Benefit When Employees Work Remotely. So I'm a corporate recruiter. I have worked remotely at times, not full-time, but I can definitely work remotely, since with recruitment you're literally you just need your computer, internet access, and a reliable phone service, and so it's pretty easy to work remotely when I need to. And I've also recruited for positions where the work was remote, and also positions where you needed to be on site. I've also worked at a company that was very adamant on every position, for the most part, like 98% of our positions were needed to have our employees on site. And there's a lot of different thinking around that as well. So when I saw the article here, I actually agree with a lot of it, especially working remotely myself and kind of seeing how productive I am in certain scenarios, and then also with my experience in human resource management and talking to employees and also recruiting employees, kind of the advantages and disadvantages of working remotely. So going to the Inc.com article, and I'll link that below, they actually cited 3 things, and the first one here is productivity. So they're saying with no office distractions and with greater autonomy, so you're able to kind of work pretty much by yourself, remote workers have the freedom to get more done. This is something most people crave. Some people. According to a nationwide survey, 65% of workers said that remote work would give their productivity a boost. Another 86% said that working alone allows them to hit maximum productivity. So I think that for many people, they can be more productive when they are working from home. For some, though, I think it just depends on your situation. For example, are you in a situation to where maybe your spouse also works from home, or your kids, are at home, or maybe there are more distractions in your home for some kind of reason? Well, in that case, you may want to be in the office. Do you have a good setup at home? Maybe you don't have the best internet at your home. Maybe you don't have the right tools. For example, for me, one thing in the office that I don't have currently, which I suppose I could get, but I don't have multiple screens, and I actually like having multiple screens where I can look at different things easily versus just on a laptop computer. I think for me that makes it a little easier and makes some tasks quicker. However, I do think that as far as productivity and the point that they're making here in the article on the office distractions, I can agree to a point, because there are definitely times, especially if you're an extrovert, wanting to kind of chat with other people and want to be involved with other people. If you're seeing people pass by all the time, or if you're hearing other people talk in the background, it can be a little distracting. For me, that can be a distraction, but luckily I just pop in my AirPods and I'm good to go in most cases. when I'm in the office. And I will say that I've heard this from others too, that they are actually able to get more done because you're literally solely focused on work. You know, if you do have the environment where you can be off to the side, focusing on your work, and you have a good schedule, it can be really nice and you can get a lot more done because you're not kind of participating in the office chatter and things like that. So I think that's a really good point, and I do agree to an extent. It just depends on your situation. The next one here is teamwork. So it says, despite the distance, remote workers make the best teammates. And this is because that distance demands more communication. Without being able to lean on physical proximity, remote workers must reach out to one another frequently and with purpose. This leads to stronger collaboration and camaraderie, and all those long distance video chats, an astounding 92% of workers say the video collaboration actually improves their teamwork. I don't so much agree with this from the stance that they're coming with teamwork. I mean, when I'm remote, I'm not really engaging as much with people in the office. Now, what I will say about working remotely is that typically, I would say for my own personal experience, and I've seen this with other colleagues, you feel the need to provide more status updates so people know where you are. Like if you're about to take lunch, they know automatically because you're letting people know, or you're like updating your status on like Skype for Business or something. You are providing communication maybe at the beginning of the day, end of day, throughout the day. You want to make sure people know that you're available. So I would definitely agree with that piece. But as far as collaboration, I think the great thing about being in a space with other people is that, although I did mention, you know, with productivity, the office chatter can be a distraction, but sometimes that's a great way to solve issues, just talking things through. And it's easier to, for some reason, talk things through by just saying, hey, Elizabeth, let me talk through this with you for a minute, and then you kind of getting together in that way versus calling someone, because typically, one, from a generational standpoint, I think a lot of folks in the office now aren't quick to pick up a phone anymore, but we still are able to grab someone and say, hey, can I talk to you about this for a second? It just, it does kind of involve more of that communication and collaboration. So I don't 100% agree with that part. But of course, video chat and technology does make it easier for you to still feel like you're a part of a team, if that makes sense. Number 3, and the last one that they pointed out here, is presence. So they're saying that office life is littered with absences. Workers who are calling in sick and sneaking out early to run an errand or get to an event on time. But remote workers do not need to make excuses. Since they basically don't have to take that time to get out of the office or take the time to actually call out of the office, they can actually just work from home if they're not feeling well without risking other people getting sick. It actually means that they're more effective. So I can agree with this. I think that, however, the idea of presence, like as long as employees that are coming into the office feel like they can take a day to work remotely if they're feeling ill, or if they need to go to an event and they can work later, I think that that's not really a huge deal. I don't know if you need to work remotely 100% of the time, but I definitely do agree with the idea of just feeling like you have to be present in the office versus actually being efficient when you're working remotely. It's a really good point. So overall, I mean, I think the article had some really good points. I haven't read completely the Harvard Business Review article. It's a little more lengthier, of course, but I will read that a little later and see what their research. Anyway, both are making the case of why working remote is better than working in the office. I think there are advantages to both. Maybe in another video I'll talk about my own thoughts about that, but I do think that there's a good benefit to both, and I think that there should be some kind of balance in between. So anyway, I just wanted to come onto this video to talk about that. I thought it was kind of interesting. Leave me a comment if you have any thoughts on working remotely, if you do that, or if you have a preference for one or the other, if you love working remote, or if you wish. So anyway, hopefully you leave a comment. We'd love to know your thoughts. Have a good day.